Hi, this is Lorraine, and I've been guided to do another video. If you'll give me a minute to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. Okay, there have been a number of topics that have come through. I will put timestamps in the description so you can navigate through the video as you'd like. But I'm going to start with this idea that has come through to me on a number of occasions. It is this truth that there will be no lies. When we are accessing our ability to communicate telepathically, people will not be able to lie or manipulate. And that's because we will be communicating through the emotional body. And I know telepathy has been described or defined as a communication through our mental capacities. But what came through to me very clear was that we as humans on Earth who have access to the depth and breadth of emotion, that is where our truth lies. It's through our emotional body. Okay? And when we communicate through the emotional body, that is an authentic communication. And how it was described to me was, actually I had a vision, and I saw this emotion come through my body, through my heart, and be projected through my consciousness, not through thought, but through conscious awareness. And that depth and breadth of emotion was what was communicating the information. And if I may reiterate, I was talking about how when we first open up telepathically, we do so through empathy. So when we feel someone else's emotions or witness someone else's emotions, and we respond through our emotional body. And the example I gave was seeing someone crying or sad. We hear their sobs, we see their tears, and we can feel through those observations their sadness in our emotional body. And we know as humans, tapped into our emotional body, that the way we help or comfort that person is by going over to them, by touch, by hugging, by sharing words of comfort, right? And that response, whether we're conscious of it or not, is coming through our emotional body. And so we share our emotions through our emotional body, and we receive information through our emotional body. Okay? Words can be a tool of manipulation. We can use words to lie, right? We can use words to deceive. Words can also be used to be supportive, compassionate, truthful, sincere, right? But when we are communicating through the emotional body, that is truth. That's where we carry our truth. And when we are reading energy, we are not hearing words. We are not listening to the words. We are responding to the communications shared with us through the emotional body. So what I'm saying is, when we have visions, when we hear through clairaudience, we know through claircognizance or clairsentience, all that information that's being communicated to us as we're communicating telepathically is being communicated through the emotional body. We're just going to keep it here right now. I don't really want to expand that into different ways to communicate telepathically, because we can communicate with trees, the grass, soil, rocks, air, animals, like all energy we can communicate with. But I want to stay with telepathic right now, but I also want to plant the seed of expansion and what happens as we grow and become more fluent in our abilities, in our intuitive abilities. Okay? The other thing that's really important is the maintaining of clear-centered and balanced energy. As we maintain clear-centered and balanced energy, we can maintain balance in the emotional body. That creates the clearest communication out to all energy around us, but also receiving and interpreting information that's coming into us. So as we grow and we understand and see and understand and accept our true divine selves, once we start tapping into that truth and understanding that we, not just me, all of us, are divine at our root. All part of us is divine, but we have to begin someplace to understand. We have to start from some point to understand that we are divine. And as we begin this journey of understanding this truth, how do I say this? We will not be communicating technically, telepathically to the person in front of us or next to us or even across the planet. Once we start to understand that, our true divine root, everything we need lies within. So we gain that information, we obtain that information from within us. Because every particle of energy contains the whole of the universe. All information, everything we need to know is obtained or contained within each particle of energy. So we don't have to reach out to any person or anything to obtain information, because it lies within us. It lies within our consciousness, and when we understand that we are divine consciousness, it all resides within us, everything. Another thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk about using I and me. I know in my videos I use I and me, and I've been told in the past to not use those terms, to speak more generally. I've been guided to talk from my authentic place, from my journey. And so I've always done that because this is my journey of spiritual awakening. And through this journey of spiritual awakening, what has been made clear to me recently is when I say I mean you, or I mean us. When I say me, I mean us or we. That has become so clear to me because as we grow and we understand our true divine selves, we understand that there is no separation. That I am you and you are me. And if you're standing in front of me or next to me or present somewhere in my life, you were brought to me for a reason. You were brought to me to remind me of something about me, or something I need to know about me, or to send me a message. And if I'm in front of you, it's the same thing. I'm here to remind you of something you need to know, or to send you a message, or to show you a part of yourself. And so something that's come to me over the years, and something I still say to this day, I am everything, everywhere, and nowhere. I permeate all things, unified always, never apart. And this is a truth that I have been working towards every day to reconcile into my truth, to reconcile into my reality. I am everything, everywhere, and nowhere. I permeate all things, unified always, never apart. This is not only my truth, it is your truth. We are all unified. We are not separate. We just perceive ourselves as separate, but we are truly unified and one and whole. And from there, from that acknowledgement that we are all unified, that we are all one, that we are not truly separate, we have to acknowledge at some point that we are divine. We are a divine being experiencing this level of consciousness, perceiving ourselves as separate. But in truth, we are whole and one, and we are unity. As we transition from this 3D to this 5D state, and as we start to understand that we are truly divine, that there is no separation, that we are merely existing at a level of consciousness where we perceive ourselves as separate. And that had a purpose, right? That had a purpose. But as we start to understand our true divine root and start working towards that, that can go one of two ways. One way is an individual can perceive themselves as godlike, and all things, that they are at the top and all things are meant to serve them, right? I am God, you are all part of me, so you serve me. And that's a justification for treating all things as one would choose. But this energy is rooted in ego. That is why there are what we would call locks or keys or codes that we have to move past in order to reach different, more expansive levels of consciousness. Those locks and keys and codes are things like integrity and intention, right? Intention is the really big one. You can't lie to the divine because we are all divine. And the divine consciousness has placed these boundaries to allow the energies still existing in duality to grow and change and find their way back to that divine root of unity, wholeness, oneness, and how divinity, this divine consciousness, has described itself is unconditional love. In its homeostatic state, the divine consciousness is unconditional love. So the pathway back is understanding that everything is unified, and at the root, that unification, that conscious awareness is love. So if you are still rooted, if one is still rooted in ego, then you still have more work to do at this 3D level of consciousness. But once we start growing, the second pathway, once we start growing, expanding, and understanding that we are unity, that we are not separate, and we honor that, and we understand that we are all things, and all things are us, and we start to move forward from that place of understanding, as we take care of ourselves, we take care of all things. And as all things take care of their selves, it takes care of us. And that we move towards being more connected. And our homeostatic state becomes about caring for all things the way we care for ourselves. That is an expanded level of conscious awareness. That's what I would call an expanded level of conscious awareness. And so the next thing is, I had this vision, and it could be perceived as a vision. It also could be perceived as a past life. I feel very strongly I first saw it as a vision, but I believe it's a past life or a lifetime that I've experienced, or a lifetime that I have access to. And I saw myself, and I had adopted this little Asian girl. I believe she was Japanese, mostly because of the what's going on, the way the house looks, and as I'm speaking and telling you about the vision, you'll understand. But I was not of Asian descent. I do not see myself as Asian descent. It was about the 1940s, and I adopted this little girl. She was blind, and I taught her about the world around her. I tried to describe it in ways she could understand, through texture, through taste, through touch, through all the different modalities that I could expose her to. Nature was huge: wind, water, heat, coolness, all the sensations that we have. Color, I taught her color, and as a young lady, teens, I felt like she was teens or early 20s of 2021, she became an artist. And she was a gifted artist, and she sold her drawings. She drew with charcoal, colored charcoal, not just black. And they were beautiful. And one day I walked into her studio, and the painting, the drawing that she had made, it was very startling to me, and it was very upsetting. And there are a couple reasons why. First of all, it didn't look like anything she had done before. But secondly, it was clear that someone tried to manipulate and sabotage her art. And what they had done is they had changed the where she placed her colors in her palette. They had changed them. And so when she came into her studio to draw, the colors weren't where they were meant to be. So the drawing itself, the color was seemingly off. And I was very upset because I didn't know what to tell her or how to tell her that someone had tried to sabotage her. But the most compelling and most moving thing was that the piece of art that she created was exquisite. It was beyond anything she had ever created before. And when I told her what had happened, I said, I don't know if you want to sell this piece of art. It is the most stunning thing I've ever seen. I don't even know if we could put a price on it. And what I realized that vision was telling me, that experience was telling me, was her art wasn't created by her perception of reality that I had shown her through our experience in our relationship. What she created was wholly and fully created through her heart. It was her love for what she was doing and how she expressed herself through that love that was communicated on that canvas. It was stunning, and it was such an emotional vision or experience I was having. It was so deep and so profound. I can't even put words to it. It just showed me how deep our ability is to create. How profound our ability is to create through our heart. It's not through what we see, smell, taste, touch. None of that. It was absolutely, completely an expression of the emotional body. There's so much information coming in right now. I really can't share that, but I just want to plant that seed. What does that mean for us? To me right now, what's coming in is it means that all the stuff we've experienced, the trauma, the beauty, all those things are truly irrelevant. Because the most important thing that we have lies within us. And it's our heart and the love that we have in our body, in our emotional body. It is the divine love that exists, that divine consciousness expressing itself through us, as us, because it is us. And so I'm just going to release that and allow you to think about that. What does that mean for you? Because what it means for you doesn't even necessarily mean the same for me, and vice versa. It's just something that's been posed to help us, me included, start thinking about who am I? What am I? And what am I capable of? The next thing that comes through is, or the next thing that came through and I journaled about is our thought does not create our reality. It is that expression through the emotional body that creates our reality. And that goes back to the beginning of the video where I was talking about telepathic communication through the emotional body. It's not the thought. It's not the thoughts that create our reality. It's the emotions that we feel that are moving through us and that are being expressed through our consciousness. It's not any one specific thought. It is the emotions that are being expressed through our emotional body. Okay? Our emotions are incredibly powerful. And those emotions can trigger us in many ways. They can trigger us in a positive way, they can trigger us in a negative way, right? And those behaviors can be reactive. They can be reactive. And so once we start acknowledging this gift that we have through our emotional body, we can start directing that energy in a way that is healthy for us. Once we start understanding that our reactive behavior, whether it be from what is perceived as a positive or a negative behavior or action, once we realize that the negativity creates negativity, and the positivity creates positivity, and the balance creates balanced energy, we can respond accordingly. And what we need to understand is that there's toxicity in all areas. There's potential toxicity in all areas. Things that we perceive as good can be toxic. Things that we perceive as bad can be healthy. So it's always about how we perceive it, right? And so as we perceive things from a more balanced place and we understand the perspective of all things, even the most negative experience can be brought into balance and used as an expression of beauty. Even what is perceived as a toxic positive behavior can be moved into balance and be perceived from a balanced place and bring beauty. Okay? And this comes from understanding and mastering the emotional body. This is one of our many journeys. Okay? So the more mastery we have over our emotional body, the more powerful we are as creators. And I don't mean that. I did use the word powerful, and I really don't like that word that much. I did use it because, look at it this way, the more you have to share. If you think of it that way, that's the healthiest way to perceive it. The more powerful we are as creators, the more we can share our gift with everyone. And by sharing that gift, I don't mean creating for others. I mean teaching others how to create. That's what I mean. When we are all, as we all move towards unity, as we all move away from separation and to unification, we all move towards a homeostatic state. We all move towards wholeness and oneness. That means we all understand that we are the same, that we are one, that I am you and you are me, and there is no separation. And I hesitate to try to describe it in any other way because I don't want to detract from that truth, that there is no separation, there is no difference between you and I, that we are truly one. We are merely perceiving ourselves as separate. And so the last thing I'm going to say is, I want to go back to telepathy, telepathic communication. When I channel, someone asks me a question and then I will respond. I will, when I'm doing readings, connect to the divine, and I will pose that question because someone asked me to do that. But as I'm walking through life, I still get information about everybody all the time. I'm always getting information. And that's not requested. That information just comes in naturally. At this place where we're at, with so many people at different levels of consciousness or different levels of awareness, I still have to be respectful of boundaries. I still have to allow people to be who they are and honor them, respect them, and not judge them. That's why the information comes in without channeling. If you channel someone's information without permission, you connect yourself karmically to that person. And if you share that information that you channeled from that person without asking for permission, you connect yourself karmically to that person. The information that comes in telepathically that I'm not requesting, that information, again, it's still private. It's still theirs. Even though I didn't ask for it, it still comes in. It's still private, and I still, once again, have to honor the boundaries, honor their privacy, and not share that information with anyone. I do ask for permission sometimes to share information, and if I get it, I will share that. But I never break that boundary. It's very important. As we move towards unity, and this is why I'm bringing up telepathy again, as we move towards unity, as we start to realize that we are not separate, that we are truly unified and we are one, we start to gain information like this without request, because we have committed ourselves to path and purpose. We have committed ourselves to that journey back to unity, and we are willing to release the ego. We are willing to release this idea of separation, and we are willing to release any idea of Lorraine or whoever you are, whatever your name is, to return back to our homeostatic state, our true state of wholeness, oneness, and unity. And as we do that, we begin to gain more information, access to more information. We unlock those keys and codes that have created barriers for our expansion. We've shown that we're ready for expansion. And when I had, and I talked about this in the last video, when I had that deluge of lifetimes just come in, and it was completely overwhelming, and I just didn't know what to think about it, because there were very profound lives. They were Jesus Christ, there were Caesar. When I saw that Caesar, the land, all of Europe, he ruled all of Europe. All these very profound lives, and I'm perceiving myself as being these people. But after a while, I realized that as we expand and we see ourselves as divine, and we start dissolving those boundaries of perception of Lorene as just Lorene, we start to access that divine consciousness. And remember, we are all divine. We are perceptions of the divine consciousness perceiving itself as an individual, as separate. But we are truly not separate. We are divine. So when I was accessing all those past lives, it's not as if I necessarily experienced those lifetimes. But now I have access to that divine consciousness. I have access to those lifetimes, those experiences that are part of the divine consciousness, because the divine consciousness is experiencing this universe, this moment for me right now through me. The divine consciousness is experiencing the every now moment through you authentically in that moment. And as we expand, we have access to that information, those experiences through the divine consciousness. So I did not necessarily have those experiences, Lorene, this fractal, this piece of the divine consciousness. But as I journey to unity, I have more access to more information through the divine consciousness. And from the esoteric perspective, you could say I have more access to that Akashic library, the Akashic records. But to me, that I prefer to think of it the way I choose to think about it, because I'm trying to break out of paradigms, even of the esoteric community. I'm trying to break down these walls, these barriers, these paradigms. And I prefer to think of it as accessing my true divine self. I'm preferring to see it as I have done so much work to release all the things that have bound me in my perception. And because I've done that work, and because I'm truly starting to see that I am whole and one, I am not separate, I am truly divine, my gift, the gift bestowed upon me, is this access to greater wisdom, greater knowledge, greater information. And this is accessible to all of us, not just me. And there's probably other people in the world who have this access. But I've been guided to share this with you here in this moment. Give me a minute. Okay, that's it. Thank you.